Good morning, everybody. Who believes that presentations are important for you? Presentations are important. They allow us to communicate, to influence people, and to sell, obviously. Now, what I'm going to share with you today is maybe something a little bit personal, but I thought it might be of interest to some of you because I want to share the way I actually prepare myself for presentations. So I hope there's going to be a few elements in there that might be useful for you and that you might want to pick up. So when I talk about presentations, I'm talking about public speaking events or important professional meetings. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about stand-up comedy or anything like this. Who am I to talk about this? I have been literally running a PowerPoint factory for the last 25 years, and I believe I have my fair share of presentations in this world. So I'm not saying that this is the best way to prepare. I'm not saying that I'm a great presenter, but I'm just saying this is my way to prepare and to feel confident for a presentation. So the first point is about preparing your message. Sounds obvious, but especially among the more junior presenters, preparing your message is not that obvious. I remember a moment in my earlier career, I had to prepare a presentation. My boss asked me to review it with him, and then he said, "Daniel, I don't want to see your presentation, but just tell me in 15 seconds, what is your message?" And I was completely flabbergasted. I was saying, "But the message is in my slides." And he said, "No, you don't get it." And I remembered that for the rest of my life. The second thing I start working on is content. And here, the way I do it, I take a white piece of paper and I start brainstorming with myself. I write down everything I have in mind, action points, ideas, anecdotes, strategies, whatever comes to my mind. And I go through that exercise 2 or 3 times to be sure, because when I'm writing, this activates my creative flows. At this stage, I'm not criticizing anything of what I'm doing. Everything I write down is fine. I'll do the check later on. Third point, a classic one, is the audience. Here I'm not thinking about whether the audience is Chinese or what kind of colors they are, or if they are rich, poor, young and old. But here I'm more thinking about how to approach them. Every speech has three angles. One is credibility, logic and emotion. All speeches contain all of them. But for every presentation you need to have an accent on one of them. In the case of this presentation, for example, the biggest accent is on credibility. So think about that when you present. Structure, I move into the structure then. For structures, there's many ways to structure. My favorite structure is actually to have an introduction, then where we are today, where do we want to be, and how do we get there and conclude. This is my favorite presentation structures. It works nearly all the time for business presentations anyway. And this is also where I start organizing the ideas based on my brainstorming and based on the analysis of my audience. This is one part which is very often neglected, the introduction and the conclusion. But think about it like this. This is where you get the opportunity to make a first impression and a lasting impression. So I spend quality time on those 2 items. Now comes the meat and the script. Of course, you've got all your ideas and all the bullet points that you have in mind, but you need to bring them to life somehow. And this takes a bit of time when you do your slides or when you prepare your script. Think about it that way. For every minute you're speaking, you need to have about 90 to 100 words So you need to fill that time with something, with some ideas, some way of formulating it, some imagery or whatever it is. This is what I call the meat and script. This is an important part. The quality control, once you've done your presentation, you want to check that, cross-check that ethically, or there's no typos in your presentation or whatever. And then you have the SM. I know I sell T2 Max, and but it has nothing to do with that. It's about stakeholder management. And here the stakeholder management is about what you should not say. Sometimes you have created a beautiful slide that you are really keen to show just because it's so beautiful, but it might trigger a landslide of questions and discussions, and you completely lose control of the discussion. This is what I call stakeholder management. Moving forward, practice. This is also very often neglected, and it might sound stupid, but I know from experience, the more you practice, the luckier you get. And sometimes when you have prepared some sentences, they sound really nice on paper, but when they say them out loud, it doesn't work, or it's like a tongue wrestling activity. So you better practice and simplify at this stage. And last but not least, internalize. I don't recommend any of you to learn your presentations by heart, because that will show. At some stage in the presentation, you might be looking for your words or what to say next, and this will diminish your credibility. What you should do, what I do here, is to internalize, like bullet points for each minute presentation. I try to remember one thing that I want to say. And through practice, I know and I'm confident that I can express it with different kind of words. And this allows you to feel more credible and more confident in the way you present. So these are the 9 steps that I follow when I am presenting. I'm not saying that this is the best way or the only way, but this is my routine, and I thought I wanted to share this with you, and hopefully there's some ideas you can pick up. Back to you.